Guys, Onyx Life is back. Welcome to the Onyx Life.
Welcome.
"25 Years and Counting." That is the new series that we are starting because guess what?
We have been married for 25 years. Can you believe that?
This year.
This year.
2023 will be
year.
25 years.
Right.
Can you believe it?
Yeah. That's amazing.
I mean, wow.
You know, so many people come to us and they're like, you guys look so young. How is it possible that you guys could have been together for 25 years? And they try to do the math and they're looking at our kids. And, you know, our oldest is 23.
She's 23. She'll be 24 this year.
Right.
So we were married basically. Well,
we started having children right away.
She basically came 9 months almost to the day of the wedding.
Right.
So, yeah, that's the math right there. But yeah, 25 years. So then people start adding our age. Like, okay, well, how old are you guys? When were you guys married? I was actually married at 19 and you were?
I was 23. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm
You're 4 years older than me.
Yeah.
That's right. So you could do the math right there, and now you know how old we are.
Now the interesting thing about it is that we met and got married in the same year. And you know, our story, there's a lot to it.
Oh, I know.
So during this 25-year sort of celebration, we're going to get into relationships. Because a lot of people ask us, like, how do you keep a marriage together for 25 years? How did you meet? What is the best way to keep a relationship together? So we're going to tell you our story in this year, in our 25th year. And we're going to get into probably some pretty surprising things. Some things that people that are closest to us still don't know about us.
Oh, yeah. We're going to get into some nitty gritty. We're going to get into some secrets. We're going to get into a lot. I think it's going to be all about, obviously, our relationship, but just relationships in general, you know, right. Whether it's dating, whether you're married, you know, complicated situations. Because, you know, I think we said this before. You are a pastor for 17 years.
Yep.
But you are still also a marriage and family therapist. So it's going to be very interesting to see like our perspective, but particularly yours, because you have seen a lot with the couples you've counseled and the families.
Right. And that's another thing. I received a master's in marriage and family therapy, not so much because it was like, oh no, I need a degree in order to keep this thing together. That's not a requirement to keep a relationship together. But because I was a pastor and I had my own practice, I counseled a lot of people. So right. Counseling a lot of couples.
Yes, a lot. And of course, as a pastor, you just see a lot. And obviously, we have friends who've been through a lot, you know, and of course, obviously, we would never say any names. But what we were saying is we have like a lot of
married
info.
Friends. Yeah.
But the thing about it is like ours it's really interesting being at 25 years now, because there's a lot of transitions going on in our life right now. Like our two oldest are moving out.
Right.
So we're starting the whole empty nest syndrome. Is it a syndrome? It's not a syndrome. The empty nest.
The empty nest situation. Situationship.
You know.
So the two oldest is moving out, and we just recently lost your parents.
Yes.
So
I feel like, well, put it this way, like my grandparents who raised me, my grandfather died 2021, and then my grandmother, who's, you know, my mom in every sense of the word, she just passed away last month. No, actually, end of November.
Right.
But it was, it's just this weird feeling of all these transitions. Like you lose your parents, then, you know, you have your older kids, they're leaving.
Right.
We still have our two younger ones here, but they're not that young.
Yeah.
You know, like
Shasha's going to be 20 this year.
20. And Shiloh's going to be 16 in just like a couple weeks. So, you know, we're really heading towards that. But even though not all of them are moving, there's still this part of me that's like, oh, how do I now focus again more on maybe Rita a little bit more? Not fully, because I still have two here. Because we started right away having kids.
Yeah.
Like right away.
Our children have been a pretty vital part of our relationship.
They've always been there, basically.
There's always been there. Like Shalom was there from the beginning, like 1 year into our relationship, or 2 years into our relationship, because...
Well, we met in 98.
98, and she was there by 99.
She was there by September 99.
99. So yeah, like Shalom is,
yeah, because we met January 98. So
yeah,
but it just
so
feels
we want to get into how we met. We want to get into like when we first saw each other, and because people are curious about that. Like, how do you meet people? How do you meet the love of your life? How do you know that that's the person? You know, was it love at first sight? We love relationship shows, first of all.
Yes.
So we binge watch things like Love at First Sight. Not Love at First Sight. Love is Blind.
Love is Blind.
And what are some other ones? Like,
man, we used to watch more things. Like, we used to watch The Bachelor, like when it first came out. So you could tell we're old because that was like early 2000s.
Right.
What else did we watch?
We watched a show that briefly, the show where the parents kind of like introduce.
Oh yeah, that was on Netflix.
I can't remember what it's called.
It was a arranged marriage show on Netflix.
Marriage, yeah.
It was like, it took place in India. So that was interesting. But like, okay, let's get into it. Love at first sight. Did you have love at first sight when you saw me?
I felt like I definitely was attracted at first sight.
Now, this is the funny part. I just basically ambushed him, right? Because if he said no, then what would I have said, right? You know?
Well, I was definitely attracted at first sight. And I mean, now that I know what love is, I could not say love at first sight, but definitely attracted at first sight, definitely interested at first sight, definitely ready to make a pretty serious commitment.
Yeah, same here.
At first sight.
Okay, so this is basically how we met. We were both in the same college, you know. It was HBCU, Oak Ridge University in Huntsville, Alabama, and we met and at a dinner.
It's
after church.
It's a religious institution.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So we oftentimes would go to church, and then after church, one of the big things to do is to go over to people's homes and to have potluck.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. Like you know, if you don't have a potluck, if you're not going to somebody's home, then you have to go back to the cafeteria, and you kind of don't want food.
And you lived off campus.
Right.
So you were always like doing your own thing. I lived on campus at the time because I was a freshman. And even though he's 4 years older than me, he was only 2 years ahead of me in school. So
right.
You were a junior.
I was a junior.
So anyways, I was with my roommate in the dorm, and she was like, Rita, gotta come with me to this dinner. You gotta come with me. And I'm like, I don't feel like going anywhere. I had just recently ended. It barely counts, I feel, a relationship. Like, no, I always say that because it was just like, it wasn't even 2 months, you know, and it was just someone.
Right, because you were a freshman, so that means that you had gotten with this person in your first semester.
Yeah, and they always say, don't do that. Don't do that as a freshman. And you always think you know better, right?
Right.
But I had never really had like a boyfriend that was like literally right there. If I had like one little boyfriend before then, it was like someone he didn't even go to my school in high school. And he lived way on the other part of LA, and so I lived like, way in the valley. It was just like...
Was it really a boyfriend, or was it just someone like you were talking to, someone you were dating?
You know, I liked, or he liked me. So my first kind of where I felt was like a real boyfriend-girlfriend situation was right before I met you. And it was still kind of like, because, you know, freshmen weren't allowed cars back then. So we were both on the, you know, just over there. We weren't really going anywhere. It was just like, boring, you know, we weren't really doing anything. So it was just kind of like, it just barely counted.
You didn't even want to go to that potluck, did you?
No, because I was still kind of like, I was over it, because even though the relationship felt like it wasn't real, that was my first breakup where we just kind of like said, this isn't working, and it was a breakup, and I was really like, I had never really experienced that before. So full transparency, like I literally had said to God, like, Lord, I don't want to go through this again. I'm sorry. I don't know how people do it out there. I could not. I already knew myself based off of my how I am. And we'll probably get into more of maybe one of the reasons maybe why I'm this way, but the way I am, I cannot go through guy after guy after guy, like get together, stay for a while, break up. If I was that broken up over 2 months, I can't even imagine how it would have been if I had been like a year or two. Like, I cannot. So I knew what I could I knew what I could and could not handle. So I had prayed to God after that. And I was like, Lord, let the next person that I meet that I like, let him actually be my husband. And I was saying on my knees, I said, even if that means I gotta wait 10 years, Lord, even if it means I gotta wait 20 years, I do not want to go through a breakup again.
That's a bold statement, because if you had to wait 10 years, that would have been very hard.
I know. And it's funny because a lot of times people are afraid to say those things to God because they're like, God is going to go, 10 years then, or 20. Like right. We don't serve a God like that.
Why do we constantly think that God is going to give us the worst of the situation?
No.
It didn't even take you 2 months. After you prayed that.
I literally bet you like 2 weeks later.
Right, 2 weeks later, right.
I met him 2 weeks later. And this is the thing. When I met him, so let's get back to was it love at first sight? When I met him, I didn't know that you were going to be my husband. But I immediately thought, who's this guy? I really like him. You know, there was just something there. And the concept of love, guys, to me is something that you just can't fully explain. Because there were other guys there.
Right.
There were a lot of other girls there.
I, in fact, was heading there to meet somebody.
Yes.
I was asking a good friend of mine. I'm from Toronto, and I was asking a good friend of mine that is also from Toronto if she would bring this particular girl to the potluck because I want to meet her. Now, I'm thinking back now, I don't recall seeing that girl that day.
I don't think she was there.
I don't think she made it, but I don't even recall because I wasn't even looking for her. As soon as I walked in, you know, like we had a typical group of people that usually was at these potlucks, and you were...
I was a new one.
You're a new one. And I was just
because
like...
that whole crew...
Who is this?
Because that whole crew, they're from Toronto. I'm from LA. My roommate was from New Jersey.
We knew your roommate, though. Your roommate had come over several times. Right. Yeah.
But for me, I was new. And she had begged me, Rita, please come to this dinner. You just got to come. I just don't want to go alone. And I'm like, I just want to sleep. I just want to like, whatever. I don't want to go. It's like, Rita, please, please, please. And just like, fine. Okay, I'll go. Who knew that would change my life?
And I feel like that's an answered prayer because while you were not necessarily going to our school to find your husband, it was more like going there to have fun.
Well, I didn't go to school to find my husband, but my parents did say, well, Rita, we really want you to go. Because, I mean, honestly, when I was graduating, I could have basically gone almost anywhere. I had a lot of offerings. I'd actually had a full scholarship to go to the school. So it was kind of like a no-brainer. Obviously, you're going to go. But I did have other offers for scholarships other places. But they were like, Rita, we really want you to go somewhere where you're going to be in a pool of
eligible
young bachelors.
You know, black men who are about something, who are spiritual, who
and
are
happen to be in the same faith as us because it's a religious school.
Trying to get their education.
So they were like, yeah, go there and maybe you'll meet your husband. I don't think they meant like freshman
in the first year. No, I don't think so.
I don't.
But I mean, that's something that you have to consider. I mean, if you're looking for eligible bachelors, putting yourself in a space where there are plenty, especially if you're a black woman looking for a black man. In particular, you know, you want to make sure that you're putting yourself in a place where you're going to have several selections.
Right.
I hear too many black girls that their story is, you know, they went to school and nobody was checking for them. Nobody ever gave them the light of day.
Are you talking about at a mixed school?
At a mixed school or a predominantly white school, a POW, like
not POW, PWI.
PWI.
POW. No, but you know what? It's true because like I'm from LA, but I lived in the Valley, and this is back obviously in the 80s and 90s, and I went to a school that was very mixed, and I loved my upbringing, but I was one of the only black girls in my class. Like it felt like all 12 years of school. So I went to one school from first grade to eighth grade, and another one from 9th to 12th, and then when I went to Oakwood, it changed my life. It was almost like I just didn't have to think about race anymore. It was just like, whoa. I was there and nobody was asking, why are you wrapping your hair at night? Everybody was
wrapping their hair at
like,
night.
If you tap your head like this, why are you not just scratching? Like, you know, no, someone has a weave, obviously, duh. Or if you have braids.
And you're not trying to ruin it.
Exactly. People in class taking out braids, or like, it just felt like home. It felt like home. And again, I loved my high school and elementary. I still am very close to my best friend, actually. She's white. So I really am very close. So I'm not advocating only one way, but I am saying that it changed my life. And obviously it changed my life in more ways than one because I met you.
Right.
And it was amazing.
Absolutely. Yes. It's just aligning yourself so that you can have the best possibility of having the best options or the most options. And I actually went to Oakwood to actually find a wife. I went there specifically to find a wife, and that was my prayer. So you may have probably started praying like 2 weeks before. Yeah. I had been praying since I was practically 2. I've been praying for a wife. I watched my parents. I watched the way that they interacted, and I just love the concept of marriage and relationships. And for me, I just knew at a very young age that this is the direction that I want for my life. It's going to be the foundation for my life. Yes, I'm going to be successful. Right. Yes, I'm going to have a career. Yes, there's many other elements to life. But one of the foundations that I always wanted to have was to have God in my life and to have a woman by my side that loves me and I love her.
That's beautiful.
So when I walked in and I saw you sitting in the couch beside your roommate, I knew your roommate, but I didn't know you. I was looking for the other girl. That's who I was intending to go to. I literally forgot all about her once I stepped to that room and saw you.
Well, the thing is,
because the way that the room is set up, the way the apartment was set up, is that you open the door
and there's a living room.
There's a living room right there, and everybody is like right there in the living room. And as you go further back, there's a kitchen.
Dining room and kitchen.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like everybody, as soon as you walk in the door,
you could just see the whole layout.
The person that is walking in, everybody sees the person that's walking in, and the person that's walking in sees everybody in the room.
Yeah. And it was funny because as we were talking, it was hilarious to me because your friend that you had asked to hook you up with the other girl, she was like looking at us talking, and I didn't even know her at the time.
Right.
And she was already like, what is going on here? I'm about to set him up with my friend. And so I remember she came on the couch like, so, hi, like, who are you? Kind of like,
right.
And she's a very nice person, so it wasn't rude or anything.
And you guys are friends right now, like,
oh yeah, we're very
close.
She's like a sister to you. So I just was like, I didn't really know what was going on because obviously I didn't know all about who you were supposed to meet.
Right.
At the time, I was just like, oh, this guy is cute, and we were just talking, and it was just. It was almost like, if you could call it love, the very beginnings of love at first
Absolutely.
sight.
The very beginnings of love.
Because you gotta have the attraction.
The
you gotta have
the
magnet that draws the two people together. That unexplainable thing that draws those two people together. Not to anybody else, but those two.
I was just like, who is this girl? She had her hair pulled back.
Did I?
And yeah.
This is when I didn't even have dreads.
No, you didn't have dreads at the time. You had your hair pulled back, and you had like a tight top and white shoes that had like a high.
No, I don't call that
white running shoes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
White running shoes that had a high.
No, I was in my boots. I had my boots, my black boots.
Was your black boots?
Yeah.
We take off our shoes at the door,
socks.
so yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But I will say this, like, not to say like you wouldn't be attracted to me now, but, and I think this is actually a topic. We won't get into it now. But 25 years, people change, right? You have 4 kids, you have sickness, health, you've got just bodily changes. And how do you stay together? How do you stay attracted? Because I will say, when Mirthell met me, guys, I was like 100 pounds smaller.
Yeah.
And
before kids.
And didn't have dreads. I looked very different. But
you still had that chocolate complexion. You see how like your face right now is like completely clear. It's very chocolatey.
It was me
and
still, but I just looked different. I was young still. It was like I said, I was 19, and it was just different. But one thing I will say is that Mirthell has never, ever, ever treated me any different as I started to gain weight with kids. When I shaved my head to start dreads, he didn't even blink. He's never, ever, ever made me feel in this relationship like I was any less attractive than the first day he met me.
I personally feel that women age like fine wine. I really do. And so I feel like as much as I was very attracted to you back then, I feel like you just got better looking every year. You started to like look like you went from a girl to a woman. Because remember, you were 18, like you literally were like a little kid, and you went from a girl to a woman, and it was just
This
25
is true.
years
I was
is
still
just
18
yeah.
because it was January and I didn't even turn 19 until June.
About 6 months later.
Yeah.
So it's like you were still a kid.
Right.
And I watched you grow. And so, yeah, I feel like it was like watching fine wine just mature and grow, become more beautiful. And it was amazing. So when I walked in and I saw you, I was just like, got to get to know this girl. Definitely.
Well, I feel like that's why when we watch Love is Blind, we have a certain perspective. And I'm sure other people who met quickly and got married and their marriages stayed, I'm sure they also look at that show with like, guys, it's possible. It is possible. Because even though it wasn't Love is Blind per se,
right,
it was still someone, it was very quick. And you got to know each other like, you know, almost in the relationship. Because like we were basically married and almost got to know each other while we were married.
Right. That's true.
And it's possible. Would I say it's always ideal? Not for every personality, maybe. Not for every couple, but it's possible.
I personally, like in retrospect, now looking back, I personally feel that people could actually meet in various different ways and it could last for 25 years. I don't think that it has to be in one or two particular ways. I think that you can have an arranged marriage. I think that you could do the Love is Blind. I think you can have long distance relationship where you're just writing each other and getting to know each other. I think that there's many ways to meet the love of your life.
Well, I like how you mentioned arranged marriage because I do remember that there were a couple couples, I think on Love is Blind, where their parents had been in an arranged marriage. And they had been married like 30, 40 years. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, that other show we talked about where the parents were in arranged marriages and then they arranging it for their children. And they were married for like I said, 30, 40, 50 years. So this isn't like a new thing.
And I know people that have met on dating sites and have been married for quite some time, so... there's just different ways to meet people. But I do believe that attraction is a huge part of that. And when I first saw you, I was definitely attracted. And my first thought was, okay, I need to get to know this woman. I need to get to know her. So I came over to you and Anjali and we sparked up a conversation. And I think for the rest of the time, I was sitting next to you guys. I think there was one time, her roommate actually had known me before because I used to do poetry and I used to sing songs.
Right.
And I had just recently created a song and I had sang it at a poetry reading. And she's like, oh, Rita, you have to hear this guy sing. You have to hear his poetry. He's so talented. And so for a brief moment, we went into a back room and I started singing the songs that I wrote.
Him, but me, my roommate, him, and I think one person. And then I was like, okay, let me hear this song, Mm-hmm. But, I was just like, wow. So he writes poetry. He can sing.
But you didn't it didn't seem like you were, I don't know. It didn't seem like you were very impressed that day. Like there's something about Rita. Like she has this look like she's very unimpressed.
Oh my goodness.
Like I'm accustomed to like the wow factor where, people are falling out like, oh my goodness. Da, 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 da. But she keeps her composure. If she felt that way, it was definitely inside. It's not like she was like stoic and like, No,
I was like, oh, that's really nice.
Right.
I mean, I'm just not the type to be dramatic. Like you said, I'm not going to be dramatic, especially with some guy that I like. Oh, I kind of like him.
Yeah, you're probably playing the cool
person that's like, oh my goodness, oh, you're so great. I'm not going to do that.
The funny part about it is that it's the same thing with being funny. Like I felt like you did not think I was funny at all.
I don't know. That was so weird.
You know why? Because I felt like when you would laugh if my joke bombed. Like you would laugh at me more. Like you like to laugh more.
I don't know
if something didn't work out or if like I tripped or like stuff like that. But I didn't really recognize you laughing at my jokes like I am so funny.
I don't know who you and your friends were used to though, because I remember Milton used to say Rita is she is like the queen of unimpressed. And I'm like, I don't even understand because I was just being normal. But I don't know if maybe your crew and maybe the girls are maybe more dramatic than me. I don't know. But
right. You were just calm. You were cool, calm, and collective. You didn't, But after we were married for 25 years, you cannot stop laughing at my jokes. So it's just like, I guess like my jokes grew like fine wine. Like, I don't know.
I think it was just the awkwardness you have initially.
Right.
Right.
But
Yeah, it was really good. I mean, so like even going back to Love is Blind, like I know we're not going to do a recap, but I felt so sad that there had been only one really strong couple, Cameron and I forgot her name.
Did they stay together?
Yeah. The first couple.
Yeah, the very first couple in the very
season.
first season of the show. Yeah.
You know, and that's funny because that was the one season I really didn't really watch. We started watching season 2 and 3.
And so we were hooked.
Yeah, we were hooked.
But none of the couples actually stayed together. So
yeah, and it just felt so sad.
That was the black girl and the white guy, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was amazing. Like clearly they have great chemistry. Mm-hmm. Their story is amazing, and I'm so glad that they are a testament that it can work. Yes. It's possible. It can work.
Okay, so let's get into a little bit of the trauma. So there's a little bit of trauma when we first got together, and that was because obviously I was 19. Well, I was 18 actually, and then I turned 19 in June. And I had basically told my parents, I found the guy I'm going to marry. And they were like, what?
Now, when did you tell your parents that? Like how long?
I didn't tell them that until the summer.
Oh, okay. So well into.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We are definitely going to get into that.
But yeah,
we are definitely going to get into the drama.
We'll get into that another time. But in the next podcast. But the reason why I'm saying it is because we're celebrating 25 years, and in that 25 years, when we initially got together, there were a lot of people that were like, Rita, you're ruining your life. Mirthell, you're ruining your life. I think I got that more, probably because I was a little bit younger, and maybe the people that were in my life were a little bit more blunt. Because I don't know if anybody ever told you were actually ruining your life.
No, nobody told me that I was actually ruining my life, but I think people were very shocked.
And concerned.
And they were concerned because why is it that you guys, because they saw when we first met,
right?
A lot of people that were in that room when we first met, right, now are hearing that we're getting married in the same year.
They're like,
and they
why?
definitely were wondering, but we saw when you guys first met, like.
And they were just saying, like, why? Why do you have to get married? Can't you just date? Why? Especially he had another year at school. So just date while you're in school. And it was a lot of people just like, saying, at least on my end, I had people who I wasn't even that close to coming up to me like, Rita, you're going to ruin your life. Other people from LA who are just like, yeah, you're going to ruin your life. And I'm like, no, I know what I know. I know who I want. This is it.
And that's the way I felt. Like I felt like I knew what I wanted. And fairly soon after we had met, I had let Rita know, listen.
Yeah, so there were a lot of people who were not on board. And the fact is, though, that everybody that has known us for all of these years, I mean, they obviously have done a 180 from a long time ago. But they're just like, they're still blown away, though. They're just like, 25 years? Like, 25 we were there when you guys first met.
I knew, like I said, I went to school and I was praying for a wife. I was coming down to the end of my schooling. So I was a junior. I was in my second semester of my junior year. That would mean that after that year, I only had one more year to meet someone, to date them. I was prime. I was ready to go. So when I met you, it didn't take much for me, like listening to you, having phone calls, conversations. I think I would say definitely within the first couple weeks, I already knew that you were the one for me. Like the first 2-3 weeks of conversations and things like that, I knew you were the one for me. Well, And I remember telling you relatively early, you're the one for me. And so I'm pretty settled with that. But if you don't feel like I'm the one for you yet. Right. So I said, I'm okay if you're like talking to other guys or talking to other people.
Yeah, that didn't go over well with me.
I'm okay with that because I don't expect you to be where I'm at right now, but I am definitely right there. Like you're the only one for me.
But you know what I heard from that? I heard, yeah, I like you, but I don't like you that much. So you can go ahead and talk to other guys. That's what I heard.
I guess I was just confident. I was just like, I'm going to do what I got to do to win you.
Well, because there was another guy that did ask me for my number at that actual dinner, but he kind of knew we were already talking. And I had mentioned it to you.
Well, how would he know that we're talking when we just met? Like, so
I don't know, but everybody saw us kind of together.
I understand.
I don't think he knew like we were talking.
Exactly. I think
but
what
he
happened
did ask
was
me, and then I had said, well, I'm kind of already talking to Mirthell, you know, and then I told you about it, and you were like, oh yeah, you could have given him your number. And then I was like,
I didn't feel like he was a
what?
threat. I didn't feel like he was a threat. But to be fair, I think that the way he saw it was, oh,
yeah,
you're just starting with Mirthell.
Right.
Okay, well, I'm going in for it too.
Yeah.
And let the best man win. And I already knew I was the best man.
And we're all still friends even to this day.
Yeah,
But he's fully married. So even the guy, like, remember I was saying, the guy that I had just broken up with, it was funny to me, but not haha funny. Like, I don't, like, it's not like I'm not trying to be mean or anything like that. But when he heard I was with Mirthell, and then all of a sudden we were getting married, he was like, wait, what? Because I was trying to get back together with him. You know, I was thinking
before I met
you,
mm-hmm.
I was like, you know, I don't like this, and what if I don't meet anybody else? But then I was like, on the other end, praying, like, you know, Lord, the next person I meet, I want it to be my husband. I was all over the place. So I thought, well, maybe it'll just be easier to get back together with him. So I was kind of like thinking and angling on that level, and then I met you, and that just dissipated. It just disappeared. Any desire to get back together with him, and then he actually started trying to get back together, but I was already done. I was already gone. So if there's one lesson there, guys, if you really like someone, you better hold on to them.
Hold on to that person.
You never know. Someone else could come in, and then that's it. That was tunnel vision for Mirthell. And it was like, oh yeah. I said, it's totally cool. Like, we're good, you know? Mm-hmm. And he was just like, what just happened?
What happened? Like, it hasn't even been that long. How did I lose you in such a short period of time?
Right, because we broke up in December.
Right.
And I met you in January.
Yeah.
And that was
so
that.
There was really not a lot of time. That's hard. So what would you say to somebody if they said, what do you need in order? How do you know that this is the right person? Because it was 25 years ago. How do you know that this is the right person?
Man, I feel like there is so much. Unfortunately, I feel like there is so much that is not explainable. I can never tell someone, this is exactly how you'll know, because it's going to be different for different people. It'll be, some people, it's friendships that they've had for a long time that just blossomed into love. Some people, it was like us, it was like immediate. Right. Some people, it's like arranged marriage, and then they just stay there for a while. Some people, it's just, you know, the regular, oh, I met him, dated for 5 years or 3 years or whatever. But for me, I can only say how I knew. And how I knew is because there was just something very settled and peaceful in my spirit. When I met you, I just knew. I cannot explain it. I just knew.
There is something, I think, within each one of us, and it's a spiritual thing, mm-hmm. that just matches with the other person, because there are some things that I absolutely need you. You know what I mean? I absolutely need you. It's like you help to complete certain things or complement certain things so that when we come together, we are complementary. Yeah. And it's so interesting. And it's like a really great team. Me and you are a really great team. And we have won in so many areas of life. There are so many areas in life that we have won because we fit like a glove in a hand. And there's no way to really know that right away, to know that the person fits like a glove with a hand.
Because sometimes it didn't feel like that.
Right.
Because, I mean, as you will get into it, we may have had love at first sight. We may have known the other person was for us, but we had a lot of growing pains.
We did.
I mean, a lot. Because I was young, getting pregnant right away after getting married and then having a child. And then we up and moved to Toronto. And so that was a completely new country for me, new culture, everything. It was like we had this like, oh, look at us, I love you. And then it got hard real quick. And there were times where I was like, I don't even know if this is going to last. Right. There were times where I don't think your parents or my parents thought this was going to last. Right. I think they thought, well, told you so. You know, it's not that they wanted us to, you know, probably break up, but it was kind of like, I think everyone would have been like, yeah, that sounds about right.
That sounds about right. If we had broken up, everyone would have been like,
because I just don't want to leave this podcast with you guys thinking, oh, it was just all roses.
Oh no, what we have to share with you guys, there's going to be some secrets.
Yeah.
There's going to be
You're going to be wondering, how did you all make it?
Yeah, like how did you make it? Or there's going to be just some things that we share is like, that doesn't sound like the perfect way to do things.
No,
at all.
Some things were just like why? What's the matter with you?
Some of our children, like some of the stories that we've shared with our children, they're like, what is it with the two of you? Like, we keep on learning more and more.
I know.
And it keeps on coming out, and we're just like, what? We don't know what to expect when you guys.
I know.
So we're going to just share it all. I think 25 years is time to just release everything and just
really,
not be ashamed of our story. Rita said because her mom is gone. But I mean, that's true. That's true. Your mom would have probably pulled you aside.
It was like,
your mom would have probably pulled you aside and be like, Rita, you know, I thought you were more
mature than that. But you know what's funny? I was thinking as you were talking, and you said, what would you tell the person if, how do they know? What I can say though is how I knew maybe the guy before you was not.
Oh, okay.
Because the guy before you, I was just like, I don't even know if I don't even know if I should date. I mean, this is my freshman year. When I met you, I was like, yeah, we're going to date this guy,
Right. Yeah.
When I met him, it was kind of like, I said to myself, if I can make it maybe past 2 months, that would be good. So I had already had sort of like a time frame in my head. Right. I was like, 2 months. I could say I had a boyfriend for 2 months. That would be really, really good. Boy, I didn't even tell him, okay? Why did we break up? The day before 2 months. I was so annoyed.
You didn't even get that 2 months.
I didn't even get that. I was like,
oh man. So, I know that I had talked to several girls, but the girls that I had talked to before, they just weren't the right ones. And I could say that there was always just something missing.
Yeah.
There was always something, just even if it was just one thing, but it was one thing that was foundational and it was really critical.
Right.
It wasn't something fluff. It was something foundational that was missing, and I did not want to do without that particular thing that was foundational for me. Personally, one of my preferences was to have someone that looked like you, that was a chocolate, dark-skinned girl. I've always wanted that. But that was not necessarily foundational.
It wasn't like a have to.
It wasn't a have to. I could have married anyone. Any race, any culture, any shade.
That's
I could
the
have
thing.
married anyone.
Because I talked about this before. I went to a mixed school. I've liked Filipinos. I've liked white, black, dark skin, light skin, big, skinny. So it wasn't like that either. So, but it was just something about you that I just knew. I don't know what it was. It was in my spirit, and it was like, I'm gonna be with this man. And the thing is, as we talk to you guys, you'll see other things that when you really listen to that spirit, he'll guide you in every area of your life, because there are other things where I just knew, oh, okay, I need this to do this, or other things that we'll talk about where I just knew this was going to happen. And it's not about like, it's just like something settled in your spirit. Like you just know something divine. Like this world is not just about, oh, what we see.
Right.
You know?
I feel God had you for me. I think he reserved you for me.
Yeah.
And so there were certain things that, like God literally reserved you for me. Your personality. I think that he foresaw things into the future, things that I would need in you and you would need in me. And I think he was just,
absolutely,
he was kind of like bringing us together.
Like I don't like to cook and you cook so beautifully. Oh, I can't imagine there's a better partner in that way.
And then like you said, like the attraction, there was a chemistry there, because I remember sitting down, like there was not enough chairs in the room. And so I remember sitting on the floor.
Yep.
And at one point in time, I was sitting on the floor and I had my back to you, but I was right in front of you, sitting down right by your legs. And then all of a sudden I felt your hands, like I had twists in my hair. I was trying to get dreads, but they didn't, they didn't quite make it to dreads. No. So they were just like these droplet twists.
Mirthell has very soft curly hair. Very soft curly hair. So
they were like these twists. And then all of a sudden I felt like your fingers like,
well, because
twirling my hair.
Yeah. And you know what's funny? I never do that. I am not a forward person like that at all. I just met you. But it was almost like, I don't know. I just looked at the twist and I said, oh. And I just was like feeling the twist in his hair. Why would I do that? I have no idea. Because honestly, I am not that type of person.
I never forgot it. I was just like, ooh. Like it was electrifying to feel your touch. And it felt comfortable. Yeah. I felt comfortable you touching me in an innocent way, and you seemed to have felt comfortable with me, and it was just like, wow, look at that.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, I'm a very reserved person. I just don't do that. It was just like, like, I guess I just already knew. Why would I not touch my husband's hair?
Right. My husband. Wow.
My husband.
So I would say, like, a takeaway from our reflections on our 25 years together this year, I would say a takeaway is before you even start the relationship, I think the foundation of 25 years starts with prayer. You were praying for your husband within that time period. I had always been praying for my wife. And I think that it gives God the opportunity to pull people together. I don't think that everyone that comes together is coming together because God brought them together. A lot of people are making choices in and of themselves. But I really do believe that God was bringing us together because we gave him permission through prayer.
Amen to that.
So I think prayer would be the takeaway from the question that I asked, which was,
how do you know?
How do you know? Mm-hmm. And I think that you kind of don't fully know. But when you're praying, you get those impressions through, your relationship with God.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit more clear. And as things are unfolding, you're beginning to feel and sense the movement of God in your life and in your partner's life. And then confirmation comes at some given point in time. And as you're confirmed that this is right, getting to know the person, asking particular questions to make sure that core beliefs are the same and things that would not tear you guys apart, things that would keep you together, like core beliefs. I think that's confirmation.
Yeah. And it was during that time that I had prayed that prayer when I was going through all this turmoil from I'm not with that guy anymore. It wasn't even that deep of a relationship, but I just didn't like the feeling of what a breakup felt like and the rejection that causes. It makes you feel like rejected. And the funny thing is, because he broke up with me, and that was the first time anybody's ever broken up with me. I never had a relationship really to have someone break up with me. I mean, if you count like the quasi 7th grade one and one when I was in high school, like I said, those don't really count. But I was the one that kind of ended those. This was the first time someone had said, Rita, I don't think this is working out. And I said, but why? And he said, I really can't put my finger on it, but I'm not at peace with this relationship. And I was like, but why? And he just could not explain it. And earlier that day that he had broken up with me, I had seen him walking around on campus and he looked really troubled. And I saw him sitting under a tree. I saw him, I even saw him praying. And I was like, what is going on? And I truly feel like he had to break up with me so that I could meet you.
Right.
And be
so
free.
You felt that the spirit that was troubling him was God. God troubling him.
Yeah, I do.
Like, this girl is not for you.
Because there wasn't something that triggered it. There was nothing that sparked it. It was just kind of like, yeah, I don't know if this is working, Mm-hmm. But what I was going to say was around that time, that's why I was kind of like in turmoil. I was feeling like, what is happening with that? And then I had started my journey into medicine and I wasn't really into that. So I was just like all over the place and I was praying and I was like, how sometimes, especially when you're younger, you just like, oh, I'm going to open the Bible and whatever scripture jumps out at me.
Right.
And I opened the Bible. I was on my knees one day and I opened the Bible. And now my favorite Bible verse that since then, it's always been my favorite Bible verse, just jumped out at me. Isaiah 26:3-4. And it said, thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee. Trust ye in the Lord forever, for in the Lord Jehovah is everlasting strength. And that is like my favorite Bible verse. And after that, I just got a peace over me. And that's why I could say, Lord, even if it means 10 years or 20 years or whatever, the next person I want to meet is my husband. And then obviously, like I said, 2 weeks later, I met you.
So there you go. There you go. So that's how 25 years comes into existence. That's how it starts, at least. That's the beginning of how it starts. And we hope you just keep on joining us on our podcast, especially through this year, because we're going to bring you through our relationship, through the shocking highs and the devastating lows.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we hope that you'll be inspired and you will grow and learn. And if you're not in a relationship, we hope that we will spark the hope that you will be in one soon. And if you are in a relationship and there's some troubled waters, we hope that we will be able to give you just what you need in order for you to get through this difficult time. Yeah,
because we've been through a lot. And if we don't share, then what was the point?
Right.
Not that everyone needs to share, but this is literally within who we are, is in our career.
Right.
We are meant to share. So, I'm excited. So join us.
Thanks for joining us, and we hope that you have a blessed day, and like and subscribe. I don't know. Do they still do it?
I don't even know if they still say that anymore.
I don't even know. They say like and subscribe.
I don't even think they do.
Okay, just
listen to our podcast.
Listen to our podcast, and we're going to be more frequent, especially during our 25 years.
Well, every week, actually.
We're going to be doing this every week, so we're looking forward to you joining us on this journey.
Bye.